Paul, I know one of the foundations, if you will, of doing user-centric design is getting out in the field, talking to people. But the purpose of that is not just getting to know them, but actually to really, really understand more deeply their problems, their wants, their needs, their struggles, and empathize with them so that we can really deliver the best experiences. I know in the process of doing that myself, I've been on rooftops, I've been in people's closets, I've been in bathrooms of the world, I've been everywhere in the hospital, including the smallest storage closets and the basements, etc. I'm guessing that you've been in some interesting situations too. I'm curious whether there's any examples of situations that you've seen, things that you've experienced that when you think back really gave you an appreciation for what it is to be a patient, what it is to be empathetic, what it is to be thinking about people in a deeper way than just a statistic or just a case, a medical case that we're trying to streamline.
That's right.
Anything you can think of?
Absolutely. I mean, there's many situations that sort of come to mind, but there's a couple of notable ones for sure. One of the things that I always really promote, within my team is really this idea of getting into character, or really kind of feeling what it's like to be on sort of the receiving end of either the use of a system or being the patients themselves, which are often not the users. But this is always a really tricky thing, especially for some types of devices which are not so simple. It's not an ear thermometer, it's something that cuts into people or what have you. And we were working on, for example, a device in nuclear medicine, and sometimes you hear some pretty humorous things from users, and they had a story about how once the users actually get a treatment done, usually their urine becomes radioactive because your body's trying to get rid of it. It's just sort of a pretty normal process. But because of it, some of the isotopes that they get injected with, they're very long-lived if they're for therapies. And so if they pee somewhere, then that stuff becomes then radioactive, and then it's just like this never-ending cycle, if you may. And so they would, for instance, have rules about patients must sit when they go into the bathroom. We don't want them standing, because if they're standing, then there's more chance of them making a mess. And sometimes with some of the older folks, they're just really resistant to that. They're like, I'm a great aimer, I can do this.
Of course.
And even though they sort of promised that they're going to do it one way, and they were talking about this one time, that's what happened with this one gentleman, and he ended up hosing down a little bit of the bathroom in the process, which immediately made the whole bathroom like a radioactive sort of hot zone, and they had to let it decay for 10x the half-life, which was about 3 months' time, where no one could use that bathroom. So, there was a lesson learned on their behalf, which is now they put chucks everywhere to sort of try to keep things safe. But, it sort of made me think, we laugh a little bit about it, but you have to understand that these folks are getting these treatments done. These are often last resort treatments. These are very painful, difficult situations, often end of life, that they're going through. And so it's really important that we translate that into our devices. On that same trip, I had seen, we'd walked through and did sort of a tour of this facility, and at one point sort of just briefly locked eyes with this patient that was getting this treatment done. And when you're getting the infusion, you can't have too many other folks around you, because you are radioactive, and just saw this sort of fleeting moment of, we locked eyes for maybe like a second, this fleeting moment of this fear and hope and all kinds of things sort of mixed up into her. And it sort of made me realize, it's so important that we really kind of translate that into the thing that we're working on. And it sort of really drove my resolve towards that. And it brought forth a lot of the importance of doing good user experience, empathetic design, and really integrating that into systems. Because often when our clients are approaching us, they're really thinking more about function and efficacy and safety and how am I going to get my 510K, and these things are often divorced from that piece of it. But adoption, from what I've heard from users, is often very much tied into how well things are going to go with their patients, and how that actually simplifies a lot of their job, which quite often is very difficult.
Really, really connected. I appreciate you sharing that. That's a really great example.